You gotta wake up and you gotta drive. You gotta be driven to go get something done now.
See, every human being on the inside have this desire to be greater, to do something significant, to be fruitful and multiply. Everybody. The Bible says, do not quench the spirit. Hallelujah. And most of the time, I know I use some, I'm gonna blame it on myself. When I first started preaching, I would use that scripture because I wanted to be in a revival service for 7 hours. But in reality, when you are not fulfilling the purpose of God on your life, you are quenching the spirit. The word quench means to put out, like to, blow out smoke or something, blow out a fire. That's what quench means. So every time you allow the father of lies to convince you that you can't fulfill the destiny that's on your life, you are quenching the spirit. You are blowing out the flame that God has deposited within your heart. Hallelujah.
The seed, if they put a camera under the ground, you'd have seen the seed sprout open and start coming through the dirt, because the dirt is necessary so you can prove yourself. If you don't really want to be, everything you see above ground that blossoms and plants and grows and that's beautiful, it was underground one time. All them potatoes, collard greens, they was underground one time. Them apple trees, they was underground one time. So they had to prove themselves. See, you want to be successful, well then you got to prove yourself. You got to push through the dirt. You got to come up through here. You got to come out, then you sprout, and then Bishop say, then you become a tree. Next thing you know, you got fruit.
It took execution, time after time after time, you know what I'm saying? Proper execution in many different areas. And consistency. It took resilience. And you just have to show up and show out so often.
Right on.
Time after time, you gotta wake up and you gotta drive. You gotta be driven to go get something done now. You know what I'm saying? And for real, and it's a gamble sometimes. You gotta really, you gotta be forward thinking, ahead of the curve when it comes time to make certain decisions. And you gotta be willing to stand on your beliefs. Because a lot of times you're the only one who can see it. You did? And other people, they don't see it really, but you gotta really believe in what you got inside of you that's telling you and driving you to a certain goal for something.
Let the external, the material things serve as indicators that we're doing well, even though something inside us tells us that we're not doing our best. And we're avoiding that which is hard, but also necessary, that we're shrinking from rather than rising to the challenges of the age. And the thing is, in this new hyper-competitive age, none of us can afford to be complacent.
Say you have to be at the right place at the right time. I always say, no, you have to be everywhere all the time, because your visibility is just as important as your ability. So I think you have to show up. And I find a lot of times, even personally, people are just not showing up anymore. You can't win if you don't play, so we have to show up. For example, right now I find that people aren't showing up for their opportunities. People believe that opportunity knocks, once or twice or annually. I would say opportunity never knocks. It's something you have to go after with a vengeance. Living in Las Vegas, I even give credit to people who, hit the jackpot there, because at least they showed up and put that dollar into the machine for a chance. So I think you have to give yourself a chance and show up in your relationship, show up on your job, show up in life.
So many things go wrong when you're starting a company, and often I think people ask, what mistakes should you avoid making? And my answer to that question is, don't even bother trying to avoid mistakes, because you're going to make tons of mistakes, right? And the important thing is actually learning quickly from whatever mistakes you make and not giving up. Right, and there are things every single year of Facebook's existence that could have killed us or made it so that it just seemed like moving forward and making a lot of progress just seemed intractable. But you just kind of bounce back and you learn, and nothing is impossible. You just have to kind of keep running through the walls.
Spanx is in all the top retail stores. I meet people all the time that say, how in the world did you get into Neiman's and Saks? And I say, I called them. And they just look at me. And they said, well, didn't you go to trade shows? I've been going to trade shows for 7 years, hoping that a Neiman's buyer walks by. I didn't know enough to do that. And it ended up being a blessing. So I always encourage people to think outside of the box. The way it's always been done isn't necessarily the way it should be done. And oftentimes what's inside of you is a better way of going about it.
Oh, let me ask you this. You say 20, that's a long time, 25 years. Why have you stayed committed all that time?
Well, when I first got into selling food, it was because I needed a job. You know, I was a felon, they wouldn't give me a job.
Wow, okay.
So I had to create my own job.
Listen, my name is J.J.Simmons, and you are watching Now Share Prosper.